Booktube, it's Amy. I'm coming to you today on another hot and humid day here in Ottawa with a book haul. I stopped by Bazaar over on Bank Street while I was picking up some photos I had printed, and I picked up 5 books. But before we dive into the books, I want to share some news that I received while I was in the bookstore. And this is news specifically for my Canadian viewers who are in the Ottawa area. Or I suppose, Ontario, Quebec, if you want to come out to Ottawa just for this. I have been informed of an antiquarian book fair that will be taking place this October at St. Paul University here in Ottawa. And I believe that's on Hazel Street, but I could be incorrect about that, so I'll have to look up the address. But it's taking place October 25th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and October 26th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So a weekend, Saturday, Sunday at the end of October, there will be an antiquarian book fair here in Ottawa. And it's been a couple years, I think, since we've had an antiquarian book fair. I remember going to one, I think in 2018 or 2019, which was my first antiquarian book fair ever. But with COVID and everything, I don't think we've had one, at least not that I'm aware of. I don't think we've had an antiquarian book fair since. And this one is, I believe, being organized by one of the folks over at Book Bazaar. At the very least, he was sharing these flyers and he informed me of the fair. And so I will definitely be going to that if I'm in the city that weekend. And as far as my plans go, I have no plans to be out of the city, so I'll be hitting up that sale the end of October. But let's talk about the books I got. So I'm going to start with my favorite find first, and it is a 2-volume set, so this is 2 of the 5 books. This is the Diary of John Evelyn in 2 volumes. Look at that. That is beautiful. 2-volume set. These were up on one of the high shelves, and I probably could have reached them myself if I had really stood on my tiptoes and, grasped the bottom of the book and tugged. But I didn't want to do that because I wasn't sure how delicate or crumbly the spines were. And so I called the bookseller over and asked him if he wouldn't mind getting them down for me. And I had seen them on the shelves last time I was in there. In fact, I think they had been, if not in that exact spot on the shelf, somewhere in the bookstore. I had seen them on and off over the last couple of years. But this was the first time. The shop was quiet enough and I was interested enough that I took the opportunity to ask for them to be brought down for me. Now, it's a 2-volume set from 1901. We've got some beautiful end papers here. You know me, I like a good end paper. And the set was originally listed at $125, but I think that was probably priced by the previous owners of the bookshop. It was sold a couple of years ago, and they've significantly brought down the prices of the things they sell in there. And so when I brought these up to the cash to pay, he looks inside, he looks at the price, and he says, I'm going to give you a discount, $65. So it was $65 for both of them, or just a little over $30 a volume. But I feel like I got a deal, because even though the spines are a little bit rough, this is a beautiful, beautiful set of books. I've been wanting to read some of John Evelyn's diary. And so, like the text block is just absolutely clean and crisp. There's no foxing, nothing wrong with it. The only thing, they're a little bit dusty on the top, so I'll probably wipe those down. It's only the spines that you can see. There's a little bit of wear. But everything else about the books are just in absolutely excellent condition. And I'm looking forward to reading these. And we'll see. Oh, there we go. I was going to question whether I had unopened pages, and we do. I will have the pleasure of opening the pages of these books, and I think they'll look quite nice on the shelf, perhaps next to the letters of Madame de Sévigné. But John Evelyn, in case you don't know who he is, he wrote his journals in the 1600s, around about the same time that Samuel Pepys was writing his journals. And so it's kind of complementary as I'm working my way through Pepys. It does make sense to pick up the Diary of John Evelyn. So this is edited from the original manuscript by William Bray, it says, Fellow of the Antiquarian Society, in 2 volumes with a biographical introduction by the editor and a special introduction by Richard Garnett, LLD of the British Museum, St. Dunstan's Society, Akron, Ohio. Now, it's been pointed out to me that this seems rather small to be the full Diary of John Evelyn. So even though it does sort of suggest that it might be the complete diary, it doesn't tell you it's abridged. It's probably quite likely that it doesn't include everything. And I'm just ending up with red transfer onto my thighs from the spine of this book, because it is a little bit crumbly. I think this is bound leather, and it all needs a good wipe down, and I probably should not wear a white blouse and read these. So that's the John Evelyn. And then we have this interesting one called Dr. Bowdler's Legacy, A History of the Expurgated Book. Cellophane on here that's causing some reflection. This is by Noel Perrin. And you might be familiar with the term boulderize, to boulderize a book. Dr. Boulder is known for his cleaned up, sanitized versions of Shakespeare and of the Bible. He removed language that he thought might be offensive to the correct Christian reader or societally correct reader. And so this was interesting to come across. This book was published in 1969. And so it is basically a history of expurgated books in England and America. And I would assume we're going to get some biographical information on Dr. Boulder, and perhaps some content on the lasting impact of his, for lack of a better term, lifelong mission to censor classic literature to make it more socially acceptable. And, this is still done to this day, right? What was it, a couple years ago, some of the debates and controversy around the new editions of Roald Dahl's works that were published by the publisher that holds the rights to them, removing or changing out some language that they felt would be offensive to the modern reader. And whether you agree with that or not, I think it's an interesting thing to read the history of. So there's that one. Now we have what I believe is a novel, an obscure work in paperback format, faded, titled Harple and Foxborough by J.L. Carr. And I think it's a novel because we have some blurbs on the back that would suggest it is a novel. It says, his novel depends not on story and suspense, but on the ironic and professional writing. Thomas Hind, novelist in The Spectator, and so on and so forth. Various things that would lead me to believe it's a novel. First published in England in 1992. And it says this is one of an edition of 4,000 copies, and although 237 publications originated at this establishment under another name, is the third book published by the Quincy Tree Press. And so I don't quite know what this is, but there is a list of works by the same author. Something letting us know where he went to school. And then we have some quotes from the Book of Matthew from Jane Austen's Emma. We have a foreword in tiny writing that I've not read yet. But the format of it does lead me to believe this is some sort of novel, perhaps similar to the Private Papers of the Bankrupt Bookseller, that is taking sort of a literary, almost pseudo memoir look at the person or persons who found a publishing house. But I don't know, I could be completely off base. It is hard to tell from first glance, and there's nothing directly explaining it. So it says it is a business history with footnotes of the publisher, but I'm not sure. I am not sure. This could turn out to be not a work of fiction at all, and perhaps it is a legitimate history of the publisher. But there are certain things on the book itself that is leading me to believe it might be a work of fiction. I don't know. We'll find out. If you know what this is, do let me know. It could be I've got my hopes up thinking I found something from the 90s that is a work of fiction. And it could be a dry as dust history of a publishing house. But usually dry as dust history of publishing houses are presented as dry as dust history of publishing houses, and not in such an interesting looking volume as this. But we'll set that aside and I'll take a closer look at that later. And we've got one more here. This is something more recent. This is something called Double Fold, Libraries and the Assault on Paper by Nicholas Baker. And from the flyleaf here, it seems to be, and it is from 2001, so it's a little bit, well, a lot out of date. It's like 25 years old at this point. But I'm sure many of the analysis and observations will still hold today, perhaps even more so in this digital age. In 2001, we hadn't even entered the digital age yet, really. But it seems to be about the trend in libraries over the past 2 or 3 decades to discard their physical paper material and to, scan things, or in this case, I think there's a microfilm copies. The trend to think that, a copy of the original is good enough and you can get rid of all this old rotting paper and you don't need to house it. And I'm sure we can take the leap from whatever he writes here to the concern that we're not going to have books, or very many books, in libraries anymore, because there is the common notion that digital is good enough, which I don't agree with. Small town libraries where my parents live, you can't get a lot of classics in physical form anymore. All the old books are gone. For a lot of things, if you want to read it, you're offered an ebook format or you're offered an audiobook, and those are your choices. The physical books are considered out of date, no longer good enough to be in the library's collection, despite many of them being perfectly physically sound. But we'll see what that double fold is all about. But anyway, that is my book haul today, a little bit of an impromptu book haul. As per usual, I stepped in thinking, maybe I'll pick up a single book as I'm out here on Bank Street running some errands, and I came away with 5. But it fit within my budget, so I think it's okay. But we'll leave it at that for today, and I hope you're all having an excellent month of July.